You can't come into this house. My sister-in-law Linda stood blocking the door, holding the keys to my home. Tommy said, "This is the family house now. You don't have any rights here." Behind her, I could see my grandmother's antique dining table move to a different spot. My white sofa that I bought with my college scholarship money, now covered with bright red cushions, and a 75-inch TV they'd just installed right where my grandmother's family photo used to hang. All inside the house with my name on the deed from before my marriage. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Let me tell you how I went from a trusting young woman to someone who had to fight to reclaim my own home and discovered shocking secrets about a property theft conspiracy I never saw coming. My name is Maria Santos, and this story begins when I was 22, fresh out of the University of Texas with an accounting degree and $85,000 in student loans hanging over my head like the sword of Damocles. But I had something most of my peers didn't: a house, a real, tangible asset that no one could take away. Or at least that's what I thought. It wasn't anything fancy, just a 1,400 square foot ranch-style home with 3 bedrooms in Cedar Park, a suburb of Austin, Texas. Built in 1978, it had a 1-car garage, a small backyard with an orange tree my grandmother planted when I was 10. My grandmother Rosa left it to me when she passed away during my senior year of high school, the most unexpected graduation gift any teenager could receive. Grandma Rosa was the only person in my family who truly saw me, while everyone else treated me like a shadow. She always said, "Maria, you are my most special granddaughter. You have a strong heart and a brilliant mind. You just need time to bloom." My childhood was a story of invisibility within my own family. My parents, Roberto and Carmen Santos, were immigrants from Guadalajara, Mexico, who came to America in 1985 with nothing but their bare hands and dreams of the American dream. They worked like tireless machines to escape poverty and build a foundation for their family. Dad did landscaping for wealthy neighborhoods from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. He'd come home with calloused hands, skin darkened by the sun, and the smell of fresh grass clinging to his clothes. Mum worked as a housekeeper for wealthy families in Westlake Hills, cleaning their homes with the same meticulousness and pride I only saw when she cleaned our own house. They were too busy assimilating into American culture and building their careers to pay attention to their middle daughter, the quiet one who always got good grades but was never the best. Never caused trouble, but never made an impression either. My older brother Miguel, 3 years my senior, was El Hijo Perfecto, the perfect son, quarterback of the football team, honor student, accepted to Stanford with a full scholarship. My younger sister Carmen, 2 years younger, was La Princesa, the little princess with an angelic voice and beauty that could stop traffic. And me? I was La Tranquila, the quiet one, the child who always helped around the house without being asked, who was always present when needed, but never demanded attention. Every family dinner was like a performance where I served, cleaned up, and listened to everyone else's achievements. "Miguel made all state," Dad would say with obvious pride. "Carmen was invited to audition for state choir," Mum would add, her eyes lighting up. And when they asked about me, always with a polite but distant tone, "And how are your studies going, Maria?" As if I were just a supporting character in the family movie, someone they had to ask about out of politeness rather than genuine interest. Grandma Rosa was the only light in this world. Every Saturday afternoon, she'd pick me up to go to her small house in Cedar Park. We'd make conchas together, she'd teach me to crochet, and most importantly, she listened to me. "Maria," she'd say in Spanish in her small kitchen while we kneaded dough, "this will be your house someday. This is your roots. Never let anyone take it from you. In this life, people can take your job, your money, even your love. But land, mija, This is something they can never touch if you know how to protect it. I was 16 then and didn't understand why she was talking about such serious things. I thought life would always be simple. Study hard, get a good job, marry a good man, live happily ever after. I didn't know her words would become prophecy. When she passed away from cancer during my senior year, I felt like I'd lost the only person who truly saw me. Reading her will, I was shocked to learn she'd left the house to me, not split equally among the grandchildren, but specifically to me. Porque ella necesita un hogar más que los otros, because she needs a home more than the others. No one in the family objected. Miguel had his full ride to Stanford and a promising career ahead. Carmen was beautiful and brilliant. Everyone knew she'd marry well. And me? I was the child who needed help, the one no one expected to make it on her own. They didn't know that Grandma's gift would become both my blessing and my curse. That 1,400 square foot house was the only asset I had when I met Tommy Martinez at a University of Texas graduation party in May 2018. I was 22, fresh off getting my accounting degree with a 3.6 GPA, not stellar enough for graduate school scholarships, but good enough to get hired by Johnson & Associates CPA firm at a starting salary of $45,000 a year. Tommy was 6'1", bronze-skinned with warm brown eyes and a smile that could plant corn. He was 25, working as a supervisor for Henderson Construction, wearing a navy blue polo that fit perfectly and had a way of talking that made me feel like I was the only woman in the room. "Hey there," he said, when we accidentally bumped into each other at the drinks table. "I'm Tommy. You just graduate?" "Yes, accounting," I replied, feeling myself blush. "I'm Maria." "Maria, beautiful name for a beautiful girl," he smiled. "What are your plans for the future?" We talked for 2 hours straight. Tommy was smart, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in everything I said. When I mentioned having a house in Cedar Park, his eyes lit up noticeably. "Damn, girl," he said, leaning closer. "A 22-year-old with her own house? That's incredible. You must be really independent and responsible." At the time, I thought it was a sincere compliment. Now I understand it was red flag number 1, not appreciation for my independence, but interest in my assets. "I inherited it from my grandmother," I explained. "It's not huge, but it's mine." "That's amazing, Maria. I admire strong women who don't depend on anyone. You're exactly the kind of person I've been looking for." Red flag number 2. He was looking for a specific type of person, not simply falling in love with me. Our first date was the following week at Chewy's on Barton Springs. Tommy insisted on paying the entire bill, $47 for 2 dinners and drinks, saying, "Beautiful women like you shouldn't pay for anything." And he was the perfect gentleman, opened car doors, pulled out my chair, asked about my family and dreams. When he drove me home, he whistled low when he saw the property. "Damn, Maria, you undersold yourself. This is a real house." The house wasn't anything special. Basic ranch style with white aluminum siding, dark green shutters, and a small front porch where Grandma had planted geraniums everywhere. But it was well maintained, in a good neighborhood, and most importantly, it was paid off. Grandma had finished paying the mortgage before she died. "You want to come in and see it?" I offered, still floating from such a perfect first date. He toured every room, commenting positively on everything. "You have great taste in decorating," he said about the vintage pieces Grandma had left behind. "And this kitchen, perfect for entertaining." Red flag number 3. He was already thinking about entertaining in my house after just 1 date. We dated intensely all summer. Tommy was thoughtful. Flowers every Friday, surprise lunches at my work, weekend trips to San Antonio and Dallas. He introduced me to his family very quickly, too quickly, looking back. The Martinez family was large and loud. Tommy was the youngest son in a family of 5 children. His mother, Dolores, was 50, recently divorced after 25 years of marriage. His sister, Linda, 26, was also recently divorced with 2 kids. His 2 older brothers were married and lived out of state. Another sister, Rosa, ironically named, was married and had moved to California. The first time I met the family at a barbecue in Dolores's backyard, I immediately felt overwhelmed. They were loud, demonstrative, and seemed to all speak at once. But they were warm and welcoming, always hugging me and calling me Hermana. "Tommy finally found a good one," Dolores said, squeezing my shoulders. "A responsible girl with a good head on her shoulders. And her own house," Linda added with enthusiasm that seemed a bit much. "That's so impressive for someone so young." During the barbecue, I noticed they asked a lot of questions about the house. How big was it? How long had the family owned it? Were property taxes expensive? Any mortgage left? "Just curious," Dolores explained when I looked confused. "We're thinking about real estate investments ourselves. Red flags, number 4, 5, and 6. But I was 22, in love and naive. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see more content like this. After 6 months of dating, Tommy suggested we move in together. "Baby," he said during a romantic dinner at home, candlelight flickering across his features, "I hate driving back and forth every night. I want to wake up next to you every morning." His apartment was in East Austin, a 1-bedroom in an old complex with thin walls and a questionable neighborhood. He paid $900 a month for a cramped space that smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes. "Plus," he continued, "I'm saving money for our future. I want to buy you an engagement ring you deserve, maybe start planning for a wedding. Living separately is too expensive." Future, wedding, words that 22-year-old Maria had dreamed about her whole life. "How long are you thinking?" I asked. "Just temporarily, baby, until I get that promotion to site supervisor. Then we can consider moving to a bigger place together, or even buying a second property." I agreed, with conditions. Tommy would contribute 50-50 to all expenses. He'd keep his personal belongings tidy, and the relationship would move toward marriage within a reasonable time frame. Tommy moved in November, right before Thanksgiving. Initially, everything seemed perfect. He was helpful around the house, cooked breakfast when I had early work meetings, and seemed to genuinely appreciate having a stable home. Property expenses at the time, mortgage payment, $1,247 monthly. Grandma had refinanced a few years before she died. Property tax, $292 monthly. Homeowners insurance, $67 monthly. Utilities averaging $180 monthly. Total, £1,786 monthly. Tommy's financial contribution, groceries averaging $300 monthly. Cable/internet, $89 monthly. Occasionally gas for my car. Total, roughly $400 monthly. Massive red flag billboard. I was paying $1,386 monthly, while Tommy paid $400. But he constantly referred to our house and our home. Initially, I didn't mind the inequality. He was making an effort, and I had a stable job while his construction work was seasonal. He promised that when he got his promotion, he'd take care of everything. These promises multiplied over time. "When I get the supervisor position, you won't have to worry about money anymore. I'm learning about real estate investment. Maybe we can flip houses together. Our future is going to be so secure, baby. You just need to be patient a little longer." Winter and spring passed peacefully. Tommy seemed settled. The relationship was stable. I even started thinking about marriage seriously. Maybe by next Christmas, but that was before his family started having problems. The call came on a Tuesday evening in June, our 2nd year living together. Tommy answered the phone in the kitchen while I was reviewing invoices for work. "Mum, what's wrong?" His voice was concerned. Long pause. Seriously? When? Another pause. Don't worry, Mum. I'll figure something out. He hung up with a troubled expression. Baby, we have a situation. Dolores had just received an eviction notice from her apartment complex. She'd missed rent payments for 3 months after losing her job at the department store. The management company wouldn't negotiate, and she had 30 days to relocate. That's terrible, I said sympathetically. What are her plans? That's the problem. Mum has applied everywhere, but her credit is shot from the divorce. Nobody will approve her for a lease. Tommy paused, looking uncomfortable. I was wondering, maybe she could stay with us temporarily, just until she finds something affordable. Warning bells immediately rang in my head, but what could I say? This was a family emergency. How long is temporarily? A couple months maximum. Mum has an interview for a job at Target. Once she gets back on her feet financially, she'll move out immediately. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Tommy was so relieved and grateful, covering me with kisses and promises that this was just a temporary situation. Dolores moved in with 2 suitcases and an apologetic attitude. Maria, she said, I just hate to impose like this. I'll help with housework and cooking. I'll stay out of the way. Initially, she kept her word. Dolores was quiet, helpful, and grateful. She cooked traditional Mexican meals that were actually quite good. She cleaned common areas without being asked. She even offered to contribute $200 monthly from her unemployment benefits. But gradually, things began to shift. First, she started rearranging furniture. Ay, mija, she said about the placement of the dining table. This looks much better in the corner, creates better flow. The dining table was an antique oak piece that Grandma had bought in the 1960s, one of the few expensive items in the house. Watching Dolores casually relocate it made my stomach tight. Actually, I prefer it in its original spot, I said politely. Trust me, mija, I have experience with interior design from my previous job. Your grandmother, rest her soul, didn't understand modern placement principles. Hearing a stranger criticize Grandma Rosa in the house she'd left me made my blood boil, but confronting my boyfriend's mother seemed petty, especially when she was struggling. Next, she began inviting friends over without checking. Just the ladies from church, she explained, when I came home to find 5 elderly women in my living room watching telenovelas. We pray together and support each other through hard times. The prayer group became a twice-weekly occurrence, then weekly potluck dinners, then weekend domino tournaments. Your home has become very popular, Tommy joked when I expressed discomfort. Our home, I corrected, and maybe your mum should ask before inviting people. Baby, Mum is just trying to establish community. She's been isolated since the divorce. Social interaction is good for her mental health. 2 months became 4 months. 4 months became 6 months. Dolores's job hunt seemed increasingly half-hearted, and her attitude shifted from grateful guest to permanent resident. Maria, we need to upgrade the cable package, she announced one day. Basic channels aren't enough for people my age. I was paying the cable bill. I was working 45 hours weekly, handling all household finances, and now hosting my mother-in-law and her friends multiple times per week. My stress levels were climbing, but I told myself this was a temporary sacrifice for the relationship. Then Linda's situation exploded. The second call came at midnight on a Friday in September. Tommy's phone was buzzing persistently next to the bed until he groggily answered. Linda, are you okay? Long pause. Then he sat up alert. He what? Are the kids safe? Another pause. Don't move. I'm coming to get you. Tommy was quickly getting dressed. Linda's husband hit her. She's at the emergency room with the kids. I need to go get them. Domestic violence was absolutely a serious situation. Of course, I said immediately. Go, bring them here if needed. Tommy returned at 4 a.m. with Linda and 2 children, Sophia, 6 years old, and Diego, 4 years old. Linda had a bruise on her left cheek and looked shell-shocked. The kids were confused and frightened. "Thank you so much, Maria," Linda whispered, hugging me. "I don't have anywhere else to go." "Don't worry about it," I assured her. "Safety first." The initial plan: Linda would stay a couple of days while filing a restraining order and finding a domestic violence shelter. But complications arose immediately. Shelters were full, with waiting lists weeks long. Linda's estranged husband had cleaned out their joint bank account, leaving her with $127 cash. She didn't have a job. She'd been a stay-at-home mum throughout the marriage. No credit established in her own name. "She needs time to stabilize," Tommy explained. "File for divorce, get custody arrangements, apply for jobs, build up some savings." "How long?" I asked privately. "Maybe a couple months. 3 maximum." 3 months for Linda, plus indefinite time for Dolores, meant 5 adults and 2 children in a 3-bedroom house. Sleeping arrangements: Tommy and I in the master bedroom, Dolores on the sofa bed in the living room, Linda and kids in the guest bedroom. 1 full bathroom upstairs for 5 adults. The kids' bathroom downstairs was barely functional. The financial impact was immediate and dramatic. The grocery bill jumped from $300 to $800 monthly. Utility costs soared. The electric bill went from $180 to $350 average. Water usage doubled. Cable/internet was constantly overloaded. Linda couldn't contribute financially initially, obviously. Dolores's unemployment was running out. Tommy's construction income was inconsistent due to weather conditions. Guess who picked up the entire difference? And that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the gradual shift in house dynamics. I went from homeowner hosting temporary guests to feeling like an intruder in my own space. Morning routine chaos, Linda showering first for job interviews, kids needing breakfast and packed lunches, Dolores making coffee and occupying the kitchen, Tommy getting ready for work. I squeezed my shower time into tiny windows and often left for work without proper breakfast. Evening entertainment decisions. Kids wanted cartoons, Dolores preferred telenovelas, Linda watched job search videos. The living room TV was constantly occupied. I retreated to the bedroom with my laptop for any personal time. Weekend plans, Linda's friends visiting, Dolores's church group meetings, kids' playdates, Tommy's poker nights. The house was constantly full of people I didn't know. Multiplication of chores, a load of laundry daily instead of weekly, dishes constantly dirty, bathrooms needing cleaning twice daily, vacuuming every other day because of the kids' messes, elimination of privacy, personal conversations impossible. Intimate time with Tommy reduced to rushed encounters when everyone was sleeping, phone calls taken in the car to avoid an audience, grocery shopping complexity. Linda's kids were picky eaters requiring special foods. Dolores requested specific brands for her arthritis medicine. Tommy wanted beer money for watching games with friends. I was spending 3 to 4 hours weekly grocery shopping versus the previous 1 hour. Mysteriously changing house rules. Suddenly, I couldn't watch TV in my own living room because the kids are sleeping, couldn't have friends over because it was too crowded already, couldn't cook certain foods because Dolores is allergic. Shifting ownership language. Our house became the family house. Maria's place became where the Martinez family lives. Mail addresses changed from my name to Martinez family address. Worst of all, they stopped asking permission for anything. Decisions were made without consulting me about my house. 2 months became 4. 4 became 6. 6 became 8. By December, I felt like a stranger in my own home. The final breaking point came on my 25th birthday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, a day that should have been romantic and special. I had planned carefully for weeks. 4 close friends from college had promised to come for an intimate dinner party. I ordered ingredients online for an elaborate Mexican feast, mole poblano, tamales made from scratch, tres leches cake using Grandma's recipe, and premium tequila for margaritas. The theme, celebrating new chapter, acknowledging both my birthday and recent promotion at work to senior accountant with a salary bump to $52,000. Finally, some good news in the chaos of the living situation. I took the day off work to prepare. Up at 6 a.m. making tamale masa, roasting chiles for mole, setting up the dining room with flowers and candles. I cleaned the house thoroughly, borrowed chairs from neighbours, polished Grandma's silver. Everything was perfect by 4 p.m. Guests were scheduled to arrive at 6 p.m. for cocktails, dinner at 7:30. At 4:15, Linda knocked on the bedroom door. "Maria, I need to talk to you about tonight." "Sure, what's up?" "Well," Linda hesitated, "I kind of invited the church ladies for lunch today. I just forgot to mention it earlier." My stomach dropped. "Lunch? But my friends are coming at 6 for the dinner party." "Oh, that won't interfere. The church group is coming at 1 p.m. for a potluck lunch. They'll be gone by 4. 1 p.m. It was already 4:15. I rushed downstairs and froze. 20 women filled the living room and dining room. Plates of food covering every surface. Kids running everywhere. Loud conversation mixing Spanish and English. My carefully arranged flowers. Moved to the kitchen counter to make room for casseroles. My cleaned dining table, covered with aluminum pans of food I didn't recognize. My polished silver, being used for potluck serving spoons. "Maria!" Dolores called out cheerfully. "Come meet everyone. This is my daughter-in-law. She's so generous to let us use her beautiful home for our gathering." Use my home? This wasn't borrowing, this was commandeering. "Linda," I said, pulling her aside, "you said they'd be gone by 4. My friends are coming in 2 hours." "Oh, they're having such a good time. Maybe we can extend it a little. Your friends won't mind meeting some new people." "This is my birthday party. I planned this for weeks." "Don't be selfish, Maria. Community is more important than individual celebrations. Besides, más gente, más alegría. More people, more joy." I looked around at my destroyed dining room, my occupied living room, my kitchen sink full of dirty potluck dishes, and something inside me broke. These people had taken my space, my peace, my financial security, and now they were taking my birthday. "Everyone needs to leave," I announced loudly. "Now." The room went quiet. 20 pairs of eyes stared at me. "Maria," Dolores said, her voice wounded, "we're just celebrating community. Don't be rude to our guests." "Our guests? This is my house, and I want everyone out. Now!" I started gathering their food containers, stacking them roughly. "Party's over. Everyone, go home." "Maria," Linda hissed, "you're embarrassing us." "I'm embarrassing you? You destroyed my birthday party." Tommy appeared from the garage where he'd been hiding during the chaos. "Baby, what's wrong? Why are you yelling at our family?" "Our family? Tommy, I don't even know these people, and they're in my house eating my food, using my dishes for a party I wasn't invited to on my birthday." "You're being dramatic," he said dismissively. "It's just lunch." That's when I snapped completely. "Get out!" I screamed. "All of you, get out of my house!" The church ladies scrambled to collect their things, whispering prayers in Spanish. Kids started crying. Dolores looked shocked. Linda looked furious. Tommy grabbed my arm. "Maria, calm down. You're acting crazy." I yanked away from him. Crazy? I'm crazy for wanting to celebrate my birthday in my own house. I'm crazy for being tired of supporting your entire family financially. I'm crazy for wanting some respect. "This is our home," Tommy said firmly. "Our home. You don't get to kick out my family." "This is my home," I corrected. "My name on the deed, my money paying all the bills. Your family are guests who have overstayed their welcome." "Maria," Dolores interjected, Family shares. Family supports each other. That's what makes us strong. Family? I laughed bitterly. When did I become family? When I started paying your bills? When I started cooking your food? When I gave up my privacy because I don't remember anyone asking if I wanted to be part of this family? Tommy's face hardened. If you don't want to be part of my family, maybe you should reconsider being my wife. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Choose between him and my own home. Choose between love and self-respect. Looking around at the people who had invaded my space, taken my resources, and now demanded my gratitude, I realized the choice was already made. Maybe I should, I said quietly. That night, after everyone left and the house was finally quiet, I sat in my bedroom and made a list of everything that had led to this moment. The list was 5 pages long. I secretly researched Texas divorce law and learned about separate versus community property. Fortunately, the house was clearly separate property, inherited before marriage with full documentation. I scheduled a consultation with attorney Patricia Lewis, a renowned family lawyer with an office in downtown Austin. Her initial advice was encouraging. Your house remains your separate property regardless of marriage. However, evicting residents who have established tenancy could be complicated. Tenancy, they don't pay rent. Doesn't matter. If they've lived there for an extended period and received mail there, they have tenant rights. You'll need to follow proper eviction procedures. I filed for divorce quietly, using savings I'd hidden in a separate account Tommy didn't know about. When Tommy received the papers delivered by a sheriff's deputy, his reaction shocked me. Instead of sadness or attempts at reconciliation, he became angry and defensive. You can't kick my family out, he demanded. We've established residency here. We have rights. Rights? Based on what? Based on living here for years and contributing to the household. Contributing, Tommy, I pay every single bill. That's not true. Mum does cooking and cleaning. Linda helps with childcare and yard work. I do maintenance and repairs. We're contributing labor and time. During this argument, I made a critical mistake. Believing I needed space to think clearly, I temporarily moved out to stay with my best friend Angela while divorce proceedings continued. I thought this would give everyone time to cool down and find solutions. Instead, it gave Tommy and his family the opportunity to entrench themselves deeper. Within 1 week of my absence, they changed all the locks. When I returned to collect clothes and personal items, Linda answered the door like she owned the place. You can't come in anymore, she stated firmly. This is our home now. You abandoned it, which means you forfeited your rights. Abandoned? Linda, this is my house. I own the deed. Not anymore. Tommy talked to a lawyer. You left the marital home during divorce proceedings, which demonstrates intent to abandon property. Plus, we've made improvements and established residence. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Behind Linda, I glimpsed the transformation of my space. They'd rearranged furniture completely, mounted a giant flat-screen TV I'd never seen, and installed a mini fridge in the living room. The walls were covered with family photos, none including me. Most shocking, a young woman I didn't recognize was making coffee in my kitchen, wearing a nightgown with the words, "This house is mine now." Who is that? I demanded. Tommy's girlfriend, Marisol, Linda answered casually. She moved in last week. Don't worry, she's very nice. Girlfriend. Tommy had a girlfriend living in the house during our divorce proceedings, in the master bedroom where we'd slept together, using the kitchen where I'd cooked for his family for years. I called the police immediately. Officer Rodriguez arrived within minutes, but his response was frustrating. Ma'am, this is a civil matter. Without a court order, we can't force them to let you enter. You'll need to obtain an eviction notice through proper legal channels. But it's my house. I have the deed. I understand, but they claim tenancy rights. You'll need to resolve this in court. The following months became a legal nightmare costing thousands. Tommy hired an attorney, somehow finding money he'd never had when contributing to household expenses, and filed a countersuit claiming the right to remain in the house due to contributions to property maintenance and improvement. His evidence? Receipts for a $300 toilet repair he'd done after clogging it himself, $150 for paint for the living room, which I'd requested, and $75 for a lawnmower blade replacement. Total $525 over 3 years. His lawyer argued this demonstrated investment in the property, entitling him to continued residence. Meanwhile, Tommy's family supported his narrative. Dolores testified that she'd invested emotional labor and caregiving services in the home. Linda claimed she'd improved landscaping and provided childcare services worth thousands. Even worse, Marisol, a complete stranger, filed an affidavit claiming she'd contributed to household improvements and maintenance since moving in. They were presenting a united front, claiming collective rights to my property based on minimal contributions, while ignoring that I'd paid 100% of major expenses for years. Mrs. Lewis helped me compile financial evidence, bank statements proving every mortgage payment, utility bill, insurance payment, and property tax came from my accounts. Never once had Tommy's name appeared on any bill or payment. Credit card statements showed thousands spent on home improvements, all charged to my cards. But the process was expensive and emotionally draining. Legal fees mounted to $8,000. Meanwhile, I was paying rent for a tiny studio apartment, $1,200 a month, while still paying the mortgage on the house I couldn't live in, $1,200 a month. Combined with student loan payments, $650 a month, utilities for the studio, $150 a month, and living expenses, I was burning through my savings rapidly. Worse, my credit score dropped because financial stress forced me to carry credit card balances. Sleep deprivation from anxiety affected my work performance. I lost 15 pounds and developed chronic headaches. But the cruelest part was seeing them enjoy my space. Neighbours reported loud parties every weekend. Marisol posted Instagram photos from her new home, including shots of her in the bathtub I'd personally selected and installed. Tommy bought expensive patio furniture, with money he'd never contributed to the household when we were married. They were living better than ever, completely rent-free, while I struggled financially and emotionally. The game changer came 6 months into the legal battle. My neighbour, Mrs. Clark, called with shocking information. "Maria, dear, did you know they're renting out a room in your house?" "What?" "There's a Craigslist ad. They're charging $800 monthly for the master bedroom. A young man moved in last week." I immediately searched Craigslist and found the listing. Spacious master bedroom in quiet family neighbourhood, all utilities included. Access to full kitchen, living shore areas, backyard. Family-friendly environment with children. Perfect for young professional. $800 a month. First month, plus deposit required. The photos showed my bedroom, my bathroom, my backyard. The ad was posted by Tommy Martinez, homeowner. Mrs. Lewis said this was the breakthrough we needed. They're profiting from your property without legal right. This demonstrates intent to permanently take control rather than temporary residence. We can file an emergency injunction. A private investigator Mrs. Lewis recommended discovered even more. Bank deposits showed Tommy had collected $2,400 in rent over 3 months. The new tenant, Jason, was a graduate student at UT who'd signed a lease agreement with Tommy, a lease for property Tommy didn't own. Additionally, Marisol had been arrested twice for check fraud and had an outstanding warrant in Harris County. Linda owed $12,000 in unpaid child support to her ex-husband and had an eviction order from her previous apartment. Tommy himself had been fired from Henderson Construction for showing up drunk and had secretly filed for bankruptcy. They weren't just living in my house, They were using it as a base for various illegal activities, while portraying themselves as a stable family unit. Armed with new evidence, Mrs. Lewis filed an emergency motion for immediate possession. The court date was set for 3 weeks later, with Judge Patricia Morrison, known for her no-nonsense approach to property disputes. During the waiting period, the situation escalated further. Angela drove by the house and reported seeing a moving truck. Maria, they're bringing in more furniture. Big sectional sofa, dining room set, exercise equipment. It looks like they're planning permanent residence. I realised they were trying to establish an even stronger possession claim by investing more in furnishing and settling in deeper. Every day they strengthened their legal position while weakening mine. Finally, the court day arrived. Judge Morrison's courtroom was intimidating. High ceilings, dark wood, a formal atmosphere that made everything feel serious and final. Tommy appeared with his family and attorney, all dressed nicely and looking respectable. Marisol stayed away, probably due to the warrant issues. Tommy's lawyer presented their case first. Your Honour, my client has been a lawful tenant in this property for over 3 years. He has contributed financially to maintenance, improvements, and upkeep. The plaintiff abandoned the marital home during divorce proceedings, demonstrating intent to relinquish residence rights. My client has established tenancy and should be allowed to remain pending divorce settlement. When Mrs. Lewis presented our case, the contrast was stark. She had comprehensive documentation, the deed proving my sole ownership, mortgage statements proving my exclusive financial responsibility, bank records showing every payment, property tax records, insurance policies, everything in my name alone. But most damning was the evidence of Tommy's rental scheme. Your Honour, Mrs. Lewis stated, the defendant has been illegally profiting from the plaintiff's property. He has collected thousands in rent from unauthorised tenants while preventing the actual owner from accessing her own home. This isn't tenancy. This is theft. She presented screenshots of Craigslist ads, bank deposits, the lease agreement Tommy had signed with Jason, and evidence of other fraudulent activities by family members. Judge Morrison's questions were pointed. Mr. Martinez, how do you justify charging rent for property you don't own? Tommy's lawyer fumbled. Your Honour, my client believed he had the right to offset living expenses through reasonable cost-sharing arrangements. Cost-sharing? The evidence shows you collected $2,400 while the actual owner paid all property expenses. That's not cost-sharing, that's profiteering. And Ms. Martinez, the judge addressed Linda, you testified that you contributed to the property through landscaping. Can you specify these contributions? Linda nervously replied, I planted flowers and trimmed bushes. The receipt evidence shows the plaintiff purchased all plants and gardening supplies. What exactly was your contribution? Well, labour. Unpaid labour that you performed while living rent-free in property you don't own. The tension in the room was palpable. Tommy's family was realising their narrative was falling apart under scrutiny. The crucial moment came when Judge Morrison asked me directly, Ms. Santos, in your own words, tell me what you want from this court. I stood up, hands shaking but voice steady. Your Honour, I just want to go home. That house represents my grandmother's legacy and my future. It's the only stability I've ever known. For 3 years, I've financially supported people who now refuse to let me enter my own property. They've changed locks, damaged my belongings, and are profiting from my ownership while I struggle to afford basic housing. I don't want revenge or punishment. I just want back what was always mine. I want to honour my grandmother's memory by protecting what she left me, and I want the chance to build a life in the space that belongs to me. Judge Morrison nodded and delivered her verdict. Based on clear evidence of sole ownership, illegal rental activities, and defendant's refusal to allow the owner access to her property, This court orders immediate return of possession to Ms. Maria Santos. All current residents must vacate within 72 hours. The Sheriff's Department will ensure compliance if necessary. Furthermore, Mr. Martinez must return all rental income collected, totaling $2,400, to the rightful property owner. Any personal property left after 72 hours will be considered abandoned. Finally, this court issues a restraining order preventing any defendant from contacting Ms. Santos, except through legal counsel for divorce proceedings completion. The sound of the gavel felt like liberation. 3 days later, Sheriff Deputy Williams accompanied me to my front door. Tommy, Linda, Dolores, the children, Marisol, and Tenant Jason were waiting outside with packed belongings. The house looked like a disaster zone, but it was mine again. Tommy made one last attempt. "Maria, please, we can work this out. Family should forgive family." I looked at him. The man who'd stolen my home, brought his girlfriend to live in our marriage bed, and tried to legally steal my inheritance, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no residual love, just emptiness where feelings used to be. "Tommy, I forgive you for being weak and selfish, but forgiveness doesn't mean trust, and it doesn't mean allowing continued abuse." Linda tried the guilt trip. "You're putting children on the street, Maria. Sophia and Diego have nowhere to go." "Linda, you've had 3 years to find stable housing. These children deserve parents who take responsibility for their welfare instead of exploiting others." Dolores played the final card. "Your grandmother would be ashamed of you throwing out family." That hit a nerve, but I realized the truth. My grandmother left this house to me, not to strangers who disrespect her memory. She'd be proud that I fought to protect her gift. As they loaded their final belongings, Marisol dropped an envelope addressed to me. "Tommy wanted me to give you this." Inside was a short note. "I'm sorry, Maria. I know I fucked up everything. I hope you can be happy. Too little, too late." But it was closure. The house inspection revealed extensive damage. Walls had holes from mounting equipment without proper anchors. Hardwood floors were scratched and stained. The master bathroom had leak damage from improper repairs. Kitchen cabinets were loose from overloading. Total repair costs approximately $18,000. But underneath the damage, the bones of the house were solid. The foundation was sound. The roof was intact. The plumbing and electrical systems were functional. Most importantly, the spirit of the place, what Grandma Rosa had left me, remained. I spent the next 8 months renovating completely. Contractor quotes were expensive, so I learned DIY skills. YouTube became my best friend. I painted the entire interior myself, installed laminate flooring in the bedrooms, and restored the kitchen cabinets. For major work like plumbing repairs and electrical updates, I hired licensed professionals. The process was therapeutic. Every improvement erased traces of their occupation while building something truly mine. I chose colours I loved, furniture that reflected my style, decorations that honoured both my heritage and personal taste. By Christmas, the house was transformed. The open floor plan felt spacious again. New paint in warm terracotta with white trim honoured my Mexican heritage while feeling modern. The hardwood floors gleamed. The kitchen featured granite countertops and stainless appliances. The master bedroom became a peaceful sanctuary with a walk-in closet and renovated bathroom. The property value increased from $180,000 to $265,000. But more importantly, it felt like home again. Personal transformation paralleled the house renovation. The divorce finalized with the court, awarding me the house, all furnishings, and $2,400 in rental restitution. Tommy got his debts and bankruptcy proceedings. Professionally, standing up for myself changed how colleagues viewed me. The partners at my firm noticed my newfound confidence and promoted me to senior accountant, with a $62,000 salary. I paid off the renovation costs within a year and started building an emergency fund. Dating again felt daunting initially. Trust issues ran deep after Tommy's betrayal. But gradually, I learned to recognize red flags. Men who showed excessive interest in my house, who suggested moving in quickly, who made disparaging comments about my independence. My current boyfriend, Daniel, is an electrical engineer who owns his own condo. He respects my space, contributes fairly when we spend time together, and never assumes entitlement to my property or decisions. Most importantly, he sees my strength as attractive rather than threatening. Tommy occasionally drives by the house. Neighbours report seeing his truck slow down as he stares at the improvements I've made. Recently, he sent a text apologising and asking if we could talk as friends. I didn't respond. Some bridges shouldn't be rebuilt. Linda reached out last year asking if she could store furniture in my garage temporarily. The audacity astounded me. I blocked her number immediately. Dolores passed away 6 months ago. Linda invited me to the funeral, saying Dolores always loved me like a daughter. I sent flowers with a condolence note, but didn't attend. Grief performance wasn't my responsibility. Most importantly, I learned to set boundaries without guilt. Home is a sanctuary, not a charity shelter. Kindness doesn't require self-sacrifice. Love shouldn't cost everything you own. 2 years later, I'm living better than I ever imagined. The house is fully paid off. I used an inheritance from my great-aunt to eliminate the mortgage early. My emergency fund has $25,000. My credit score recovered to 780. I'm considering purchasing a rental property as an investment, but beyond financial success, I found peace. Every morning I drink coffee in the kitchen where Grandma used to make tortillas. Every evening I read in the living room where she taught me to crochet. The house holds her memory along with my dreams for the future. Sometimes people ask if I regret fighting so hard for just a house. But they don't understand. It was never just a house. It was my foundation, my security, my grandmother's love made tangible. It was proof that a young Latina could own something valuable in a world that often tries to take everything from people like us. Fighting for it meant fighting for myself. Winning it back meant winning back my power. The most important thing I learned, you don't owe anyone your house, but you owe yourself a place to call home. Last month brought an unexpected twist. A real estate agent contacted me about the house next door going up for sale. The elderly owner, Mrs. Patterson, wanted to sell to someone who would appreciate the neighborhood's character. She'd watched my renovation progress and admired my work. "Maria," she said, "you've transformed that place into something beautiful while respecting its history. Would you be interested in purchasing it as an investment property?" The irony wasn't lost on me. 2 years ago, I was fighting to keep one house. Now I'm being offered the opportunity to expand my portfolio. The property needs work but has good bones. Sound familiar? And Mrs. Patterson offered owner financing at below market rates. After consulting with a financial advisor, I decided to purchase. Next month, I'll become a landlord of a rental property. But this time, I know exactly how to screen tenants, set clear boundaries, and protect my investment. My experience with Tommy's family taught me everything about what not to do. Thank you for watching my story to the end. If you're in a similar situation, someone taking advantage of your kindness or ownership rights, remember that you have the right to say no. You have the right to protect what belongs to you, and you don't have to sacrifice your happiness for guilt or family pressure. Sometimes loving yourself means disappointing other people, and that's okay. If you were me when Tommy first refused to have his mother and sister move out, what would you have done? Would you have compromised and tried to make it work, or would you have put your foot down from the beginning? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious about your perspectives. And if this story resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss other stories about women who refuse to be doormats. Because trust me, there are many of us out there, and we need to support each other. Remember, your home should be your sanctuary, not your battlefield. Fight for it if you have to, but never let anyone make you feel like a stranger in your own house. I'm Maria Santos, and this is a reminder that sometimes the best thing you can do for a marriage is end it. Thank you for listening, and remember, you deserve a place to call home where you are the queen of your own castle.